And welcome to the Big Kickoff League of Ireland podcast with myself, Roy Shanahan, and Mr. Nathan Doyle from thebigkickoff.com. And Nathan, this week the league starts, and it's well, weather permitting. Obviously, there's a few storms coming in, but I think hopefully it looks like Friday morning might get the most of it, and we may be ready to go on Friday evening. Are you looking forward to it? Are you getting to a match?
Yeah, can't wait. Obviously, you know me, right? Pat's man, myself will be in the away end at Holker Park. Nothing's ever easy with the league. Like I said, we're starting to sweat now over these storms started looking to interrupt it because, fuck all this Christmas bollocks. This is the most wonderful time of year. It's great to have it back. What do you reckon? Do we start getting some predictions down? Some official League of Ireland, the big kick-off League of Ireland predictions?
Yeah.
No better time.
Why not? Yeah. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get the league page up, and we'll have a little look at this. This is our league page here, Nathan, and we will just click on it. Start off.
Yeah, it's a tough start for Pats, from Pat's point of view. Always is when you're playing a newly promoted side. Coming straight up from the first division. Look, going off the President's Cup game, Pats were unlucky over the 90 minutes, I think. Yeah, personally thought they were the better side over the 90, especially when they got the ball down and played some nice interplay. Like the own Doyle up top looked nice. Some really good movement off him. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one. I don't know what to expect from Shells this season. Just looking at an overall preview of them, the Damien Duff factor is obviously a big one. Big personality to come in from the league. It's going to garner respect just from what he done in an Ireland jersey. But in fairness, he completely gutted the squad that got them here in the Premier Division. Only 75% of their squad from last season is gone. Look, and they have been good in terms of who they brought in. Like Conor Kane, Aaron O'Driscoll, Abe Dervin, Sean McSweeney that we've seen in the League of Ireland last season doing well. Dan Carr's coming back into the league. People remember him from Shamrock Rovers. Well, he's not the most prolific goal scorer. He's still a decent player to have around the place. Another one I actually found interesting is Jordan McAneff coming on loan from Arsenal. There's a guy they always hear a name that's being touted, but just been extremely unlucky with injuries in his short career. So, yeah, difficult start for Pats. It was to stick down probably a scoreline. I'd be hoping for a tight away victory, but yeah, it's a tough one. It really is. Interesting to see as well. If you couldn't get tickets to the game, it's sold out. So, looking to be a good occasion itself. You can catch it on RTE if that's something that you're interested in.
How do you feel about Damien Duff coming into the League of Ireland? He's already had a couple of little moans and groans, and that's kind of his nature. He is that kind of character. Do you think he'll be able for it? It's going to be fatiguing on him because he does like top quality players. Yeah. He does like working with that kind of level. Can you see him get frustrated?
Yeah, I do. I even when it was first announced, I think of in season 2, we talked about Damien Duff coming into the league. I know I was a little bit critical at the time. I still would be. Like I said, looking at some interviews, especially the one at the League of Ireland launch, Roy, I don't know if you got to see it. He looked particularly not impressed with some of the questions going his way, and just in nerve, just didn't want to be there. And look, I know every man just different, and especially they handle the media obligations very differently. Some players and managers put themselves forward for that stuff, and you can't get them to shut up. But others are just not into it at all. Yeah, I think it'd be tough to see how he's going to get on if the chips are down, and if Shells start to go on a bit of a bad run of games and players aren't performing that the way he likes. I couldn't see him to be the type of manager that's going to rally the dressing room and get everybody on his side. It seems like a bit of a prickly character, and again, it's to go back to it, and I know that the reasons that he's left clubs and left jobs in the past is for personal reasons, but it's a short coaching career that he's had, and he's been at a number of clubs, a number of high-level jobs as well at that, and he hasn't tended to last too long in them.
No. Okay, let's have a look at the rest of the fixtures, Nathan, because there's a whole load of fixtures there. You've got the likes of Dundalk and Derry. How is that going to work itself out? It's a good one to start off, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Yeah, especially with the two sides. We'll start with the home sides, Dundalk. I personally, again, I don't want to come off as a bit biased. As a Pats fan, I thought it was bizarre when Stephen O'Donnell made the decision to jump to Dundalk. I know he'll have a personal affiliation with the club, with everything that he'd done in his playing career, but I thought looking at Pats, won the FAI Cup, came second in the league without really challenging Shamrock Rovers last season, but you felt there was something building there. where he's going to a Dundalk side now. We know they're coming off a disastrous season, albeit we're starting to see changes off the field with new management coming in. They're trying to get that connection back to Dundalk town. You know, we're seeing some faces of the past coming back to the volunteering side even of the club. You know, people that highly regarded in circles of Dundalk. But for me, if you're looking at the rebuild job you had to do at Pats and the rebuild job he has to do now with Dundalk, I think the Dundalk job is a much bigger rebuild, right?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I don't know about you. Look, he's done well, you know. We've seen it at Pats what he can do with recruitment, Stephen. He usually gets a spot on, nail on the head. I talked last week about Mark Connolly coming in the centre half on loan from Dundee. I think he'd be a good one. Of course, we've seen the likes of Robbie Benson, John Mountney and Sam Bowen follow over from St. Pat's. I think that was always going to happen when Stephen left Richmond Park. But you know, we still, while he's lost the likes of Michael Duffy and Patrick McElhaney, who it's actually, it's funny that this is going to be their first game at Derry City, isn't it? Making their return to Oriel Park. Still has the likes of Pat Hoban there, you know, Andy Boyle, Darryl Leahy's going to be a big season for him. If I was to show one young player at Dundalk out, Ryan O'Kane, we talked about him a little bit last year. While it wasn't a breakthrough season for him last year in terms of like a Johnny Kenny, you know, a young lad breaking through, he impressed in his performances, and I think we could see the likes of Ryan O'Kane really still step up and get given a chance with Stephen. But yeah, in terms of the overall league standings for them, it could go anywhere. It really, really could. It's going to have to be a project for Stephen O'Donnell, but yeah, if we're looking at the opposite though, Derry City, it's all sunshine and roses for them at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, well, until they get beaten, and then we'll see what they're made of, you know. But yeah, the Dundalk thing, I totally agree with. It's a big change around. Again, 2 years in a row, because last year was a big change around. It didn't work for them, so it'll be very interesting to see how it works out for them this year. Okay, the round fixtures just on the Premier Division. Shamrock Rovers UCD. You're expecting to see Shamrock Rovers see that one out. Finn Harps against Drogheda. It's going to be really interesting with this one, Nathan, because again, Finn Harps, again, as always, have to change things around, and you're never quite sure what kind of team they'll have out. Drogheda will have a few different players missing, so that's going to be interesting. And Sligo Rovers versus Bows, a whole new Bows set up again. Just on those games there, Nathan, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, a whole new bowl setup, but I think you'd argue it's a completely different setup for Sligo Rovers as well. You know, in the off-season, they lost, for me, their two best players last year, in Johnny Kenny and in John Matton, and they're going to be massive loss for them. And realistically, just haven't replaced them. You know, they brought in the likes of Paddy Kirk, Carlo Sullivan from Finn Harps, and Will Fitzgerald, who are good players, but they're not going to fill up them gaps that are there in the squad. They brought in a lot of unknown quantities from the likes of New Zealand and Canada. There could be a gem in there, we don't know. We're going off YouTube videos at this stage, Roy. And Aidan Keena, who I seen at Pats as a young lad, they brought him in as their main striker. His goal scoring record speaks for itself. It really isn't great, so they're lacking in that department, Sligo. I think it'll be a difficult season for them. If you're looking at the set Bows and Sligo, I think Sligo have a much more difficult task this season in terms of, you know, they have back-to-back European successes. I cannot see them getting near that this season.
Okay. When you look at the First Division, Nathan, because the First Division, just like any other division, the Premier Division and the First Division, the start of the year is excitement for everyone because anyone can win the league and anyone feels like they can win the league, although some of them may be a little bit unrealistic. How do you see the First Division going there? You can see the fixtures there that we have. Wexford, as you said, a little bit of optimism for them this year. Yeah, Treaty will be buoyant after last season. Bray again, they'd be thinking that they'd be one of the favourites to go up, but you just don't know. So who do you think are the favourites? I'm going to guess Waterford are going to be well up there. Who do you think could be the dark horses?
Yeah, let's just get it out of the way early doors. I think Waterford will be First Division champions this season. Getting in Ian Morris as early as they did, absolutely great appointment. We've seen he got promoted in the past with Shelbourne. But not only that, right? I was looking today before the show of the squad from the back end of last year and the squad that they have going into the First Division season. And this First Division squad that they have, I'd take it any day over the squad that they had last year. Realistically, the only key player that they lost was John Martin, a very good striker. He's gone to Dundalk. The rest of the key players that they had last year, you know, Brian Murphy, Keane Kavanagh, Phoenix Patterson, Anthony Woodworth, these have all stuck around. Eddie Nolan, another player that stuck around at Waterford this season. So to be able to keep a hold of them lads is absolutely vital and key. To have that nucleus of the squad, even though there's a new manager coming in, yeah, I think that'll be absolutely vital for them. I really do. In terms of dark horses, I know I did pen a little article about Wexford, cheap plug, go check it out on thebigkickoff.com. I don't think they made the playoffs. I just looking at the pack ahead of them, but that's going to be a process for Wexford. In terms of dark horses, and correct me if I'm wrong here, can I call Cork City a dark horse?
Yes.
That'd be appropriate, because I think if
think
I'm looking
so,
at
yeah.
Cork, I think Cork, in my own humble opinion, will be in the top two. I have Cork down to finish second in the league this season.
Okay, that's an interesting.
Yeah.
Why? What's that based on?
Again, a lot of it is to go off people that they kept. Keegan Murphy is going. He's coming in as the bookmaker's favourite to finish the top goal scorer in the first division this season. He's going to be massive. The likes of Keane Coleman, Dylan McGlade, Aaron Bolger, Barry Coffey. These are all lads that had a certain bit of an X factor about them last year at Cork City. And I just feel with that, and they brought in Rory Keaton off Galway, which is a good statement. Ali Gilchrist came in on Shells, Jimmy Corcoran, goalkeeper from Wexford. You could finally might see McNulty be dragged out at between the six for Cork. He's been there for such a long time now, but yeah, just a signal of intent of the good signings that he brought in, and I feel that Colin Healy, we're starting to see the squad come together, and he's really starting to implement his style of play and what he wants to do with Cork City. Now, I do know it said that to finish second, that's going to be a massive jump from the sides that finished, I think it was outside the top 5 last season, but yeah, I do. I just have a sneaky feeling that they could be the dark horses this year.
Okay. Well, let's have a little look at some of the players, because we talked last week about some of the players who have moved to clubs in the League of Ireland, but this year there's been a huge amount of players who have moved outside of the country, and we've got a couple here, Nathan. The likes of Ross Tierney, you've got Georgie Kelly, James Brown, Johnny Kenny, and of course our Udinese buddy James, and there's more to add to that, you know. So first of all, your thoughts on why they're moving. Obviously, they're able to move, and we're going to discuss this as well, the price that they're moving at. But why such a big interest in League of Ireland players at the moment?
I think it's a good indictment of how the league is going, that we're producing these young quality players. I know I don't want to jump straight into it, but that is my fear, that we're being looked at as a cheap market. You know, these are some star players that are going. The one that from the players that popped up there, the one again, we're going to have to talk about that man James Brown. Right, I know we done a lot of that last year, and I want to get one more little conversation about James before he goes off the pastures new. But the fact he's gone off the Blackburn and straight into under 23 is that for me is absolutely crazy. You're looking at one of the best right backs in the league last year, someone that's definitely good enough to go abroad and play first team football, but. Yeah, that's the thing. I'd hate to see it become a cheap market, because you look at other leagues, especially over in the Scandinavian leagues, players that are probably lesser quality than your Ross Tierneys and your Georgie Kellys. Realistically, you're always going to struggle to keep them quality of player in this league. They're always going to move on. It's just a natural progression of it. But you have guys like that lesser quality than these players that are going for higher fees. Which
you do see, Nathan, with even look at Donny van de Beek over in England. You do see with players who go into the English league, they do tend to keep them away, because a lot of these need to bulk up. And you see with Irish players who maybe the level of training, and maybe not always full time, if you know what I mean, that they need to do a lot more training just to get up to the level of fitness and everything that's in the leagues that they're going to, whether it's Championship, Premier League, or even League One. So that I've seen that before with different players. So maybe that's the case there with James, and maybe it won't be too long before he does get around. But then, of course, you can counter that by saying that Liam Scales has gone to Celtic and got himself into that side and played games and done himself absolutely no harm whatsoever. So, yeah, I think he can counter it, but then maybe it's just lucky player, lucky club, lucky time, you know. So, but it was interesting there, because Bohemians today called for the League of Ireland clubs to work together and stand up to agents to prevent the loss of star talent to the UK for tiny transfer fees. I just want to read this out, Nathan. So since the end of, this is in the Independent, since the end of last season, Sligo Rovers lost key players like Johnny Kenny, John Mahon, both gone to Scottish clubs for release clauses of 150,000. Crystal Palace paid Drogheda 50,000 for Killian Phillips, while out with contract players like, as we said, James Brown, Georgie Kelly, Dan Cleary moved to the UK for free, and Bowes got compensation but no transfer fee for Ross Tierney with his move to Motherwell. An English Premier League side paying a five-figure sum for a player here is a concern to clubs. You look at this, I think it's Daniel Lambert who was talking about, and he's looking for collective action, and he's looking for, the agent side of thing where they're putting in these fees. I'm going to ask you the question. First of all, it's a worry for the league, but is this not just because the league clubs are not willing to give out long-term contracts, and then obviously they're willing to hand out these ridiculous, minimum release clause, which really there should be no release clause at all for League of Ireland players. It's already minimum as it is, as we're discussing. So one release clause should be a no-no nearly. I don't think they should let agents have release clauses in there unless they're ridiculous. You look at some of the stuff that Aubameyang went to Arsenal and put a billion on his release clause. Now who's going to pay that? No one. But throw it in there. Why not? So why don't the club stick? Yeah, we'll stick a release clause. It'll be $1 million and happy days. And if you want to buy him for that, that's great. But we haven't on a 3-year thing. Is the biggest problem that they're not giving out these long-term contracts?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's a lot of clubs that find themselves in a catch-22. I also seen an interview up on RTE. I don't think it was with RTE, but RTE had an article up about an interview with Stephen Bradley, and he was going into that sentiment as well, saying that it's these part-time contracts or 40-week contracts that are that a detriment to these transfers. We can't be putting lads, especially young lads coming out of academies, on short-term part-time deals and expecting to be getting almost $1 million for them, or even anywhere close to that for them, even whatever it may be. So I think it really is. But then you also have to look at the side where a lot of clubs in the league, especially as you further go down, they're just not in a position to be able to afford to be dishing out these long-term contracts. We have a poor prize money system in the league, insurance costs, travel expenses, and even up now we're in a situation where a lot of clubs operate in men's football, women's football, underage football under the same banner, and pretty much out of the same pot as well. So that's going to have to be difficult here. We think we say every week here, don't we, mate, that it's all about improving of government funding, because at the minute being able to dish out these long-term contracts just isn't a reality in the league. But it's the logical conclusion of how you get rid of these small marginal fees for top talents going aboard.
Yeah, absolutely. I think clubs need to start organising themselves if they believe in the players that they have, and they believe that this player is going to be with them for the next 3 years because there's real quality there. I think they need to give them those contracts, whether it's a 3-year contract that is, it might be a low contract that they're giving them. It may not be the greatest contract in the world. Try and get them under the belt, and maybe even that there's a ladder in the wages or whatever it is to keep them there, each year that they step up. But yeah, it's definitely that's the only way they're going to keep the players, and the only way they're going to get a decent fee for them. So they can't really go. I'm not going to call it whinging, because it's a little bit of whinging. It's just the way it is, because League of Ireland clubs at the moment, they're not compensating. Anyhow, the majority of them are not compensating schoolboy clubs for getting their players. So it's a little bit of whinging there when they're not getting compensation themselves from the Premier League. So sometimes it bites you in the arse. Okay, Nathan, Shane Keegan. Bit of news, he's going to treat United as the academy. Is it academy director? Academy league?
So I would say it is
okay.
Academy director, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. So is this a good move for the development of football in Limerick?
Yeah, there's not much really on this story. I just thought it was an interesting one. It's not a move I expected to see Shane Keegan make, but if you're Treaty United, I think it's a fair appointment to make. I think it's a sensible appointment to make. Shane, someone with experience within the League of Ireland with Wexford, Galway, and Dundalk. The latter didn't go as he expected, I'm sure. But look, a lot of that wasn't down to Shane. The club was in complete disarray at the time, as we chronicled every week. It felt like, right.
I'm not sure that even Pep would have got at now Dundalk last year. It was one of those messes, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite difficult to get anything. But yeah, look, it's very interesting Dundalk. We talked a bit enough about all that last year, and best of luck to them, because it's a club that definitely needs a change. It looks as it's going to be. But yeah, look, these people like Shane Keegan coming in to the club. You see it elsewhere, don't we? We have like Paddy McCourt is the Derry's academy director. Now Conor O'Grady, I think he's the head of academy here in Sligo. Ourselves, Pats, we have J.R. O'Brien as director of football. So these are just some off the top of my head. I'm sure there is more within the league, but to have these people that are around in the younger generation, and to pump them through to hopefully into the first team, it's great to have, because you have that experience of the league and what's expected of the league. So yeah, really a sensible appointment by Treaty United, and coming into the second year now of men's League of Ireland football, this can only be a benefit. To start bringing these younger players through and to make them connections with Munster senior sides, because we actually have an influx in Munster based teams in the first division this year, with the two Cork teams, Waterford, two Cork teams, I better not say that, Cork City and Cove Ramblers, sorry. As soon as I said it, I was like, I better change that up, I'll get absolutely murdered for that. And I actually think that's been something that's, just to switch gears for a second, that Cove have struggled with a little bit this season, the likes of Cork City and Waterford, with the full-time football that they have to offer, they're cherry picking the best talent, or they're offering up the best talent that want to play in Munster. So you're looking at the likes of Cove and Treaty that will have to go into the market of Munster senior football. So they have someone like Shane Keegan at Treaty that can help nurture, along with these coaching staff, to help nurture the young talent of Munster, to bring them through to Treaty United. Yeah, that can only be a benefit.
Can you see Treaty struggle this year? Second season syndrome?
A little bit. I think it'll be between themselves and Longford to get into that final playoff position. I can't see. Don't think there's much really between them. The likes of, again, we mentioned Sean McSweeney. He left. He's gone to Shelbourne, done well last season. Tyg Ryan, really, really good goalkeeper. He's gone to Bohemians. You'd imagine he'd be second fiddle to James Talbot. But they're big losses to have. But they brought in Denzel Fernandez, Enda Curran, Joe Gorman. These are solid League of Ireland players. So again, it's just a building of a squad there. But it was an amazing year last year for them. It really was. But I don't think the playoffs are completely out of question. I don't think it is.
No, I don't know. Okay, we'll look at our last one, which is, of course, the Sports Capital programme, which was dealt out last week. Yeah, well, it's a big thing for League of Ireland clubs, isn't it? And a number of League of Ireland clubs were in the money after the Sports Capital grants bonanza, I suppose, 150 million, but the government dished out 1.5 million in funding to the Premier and First Division club towards improving ground facilities and equipment. Nathan, I don't know, I actually didn't ask you this, so if you got the numbers in front of you, I have them here in front of myself. What do you make of them?
I do. I have the numbers here in front, and like I said, we'll be a joke and saying it's all these numbers and figures are quite boring, but it's something that, I feel that League of Ireland clubs are only getting newly educated on grants like the Sports Capital grants. These are grants that they should be availing of for a long time, but it's only something that seems to be relatively new, from what I'm hearing within.
To them.
To them, yeah. No, it's been used elsewhere for the longest time now. But League of Ireland clubs for the longest time have not been going in, whether it being a lack of knowledge with the application process or just a lack of knowledge of what was available to them. So yeah, this is something that should become a regular thing, and it's all about the education and just knowing. Because like you said, it's from the outside looking in. For non-League of Ireland fans, it seems to be their biggest gripe for some reason, that the League of Ireland clubs are constantly going around seemingly cap in hand and begging for money, but it's something that's needed to benefit, and to grow the league with the facilities, whether that, not even stadium facilities, whether that be basic equipment. Yourself with Lucan United, it's like just the day-to-day running of amateur sides. It's impossible to do without any sort of funding.
Oh, well, we've dipped in ourselves, Nathan. So tell us who else has dipped in from the League of Ireland.
Yeah. So we'll just have a little run through a quick one and say what they're going to be splashing the cash on. Drogheda got 150,000. That'll be going into the development of the training centre at Marley's Lane. So that'll be a training centre that will host Drogheda United senior teams and all other teams, but also Drogheda Boys and Drogheda Girls FC. So again, great to see that community link come together and for all the Drogheda sides to be able to use that training facility. Sligo, they got over 211,000. That will go to the redevelopment plans of the showgrounds that we've seen come out just towards the back end of last season. While that figure won't be close to covering the cost of the redevelopment, it's still, it's a nice chunk to see that will go towards that. And I have to say, I know I've said it a couple of times, but from living in Sligo and seeing the fundraising process that goes on with the club, it's amazing to see, and there's no doubt that they'll be able to raise them funds. Skipping down to Bray Wanderers, they got over 280,000. That'll go to an all-weather pitch in the Carlisle grounds. Not a big fan of all-weather pitches, but look, if one team that needs them at Bray Wanderers, themselves and Finn Harps are always the sides that seems to be the struggle in terms of postponements with weather, just to the location of two clubs.
I'm just looking at this one, Nathan. Athlone Town landed 250,000 for dressing room and toilet upgrades. So there must be going to be golden toilets, are they?
I can't wait. It's going to look something with a nightclub.
Someone to wipe their arse. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, but I think there's a.
I think there's. I'll have a shower there at halftime.
I think there's a fitness suite as well.
Yeah,
but
bring that dogs. You're going for the hot tub at
halftime. Go ahead.
Cove Ramblers got 300,000. Couldn't find actually. I don't know if you could see what Cove are going to splash the cash on. I couldn't find anything.
I looked that up now. I have it here actually. Yeah, there were 300,000 just to upgrade club facilities and equipment.
Perfect.
So new footballs.
New footballs and cones, happy days. Goal and cones and goal for everybody. Shamrock Rovers, they got around 149,000. Am I right in saying that right? Going to go to LED floodlights at their academy facility.
Yeah, I think so.
That's in Roadstone. Happy days.
It says 168,648. Yeah. So, and they built a good little training ground there, and it really looks well. So that's for the floodlights down there. So now they'll be, not only will Damien Duff, who was there, had the kids up at 6 o'clock, they'll have them up till midnight now. But that's great. That's it. And this is the stuff that is needed. This is the stuff that we've been talking about, the infrastructure around the clubs. If this gets built, and I know all this is on training ground equipment, and that's badly needed. Once they start getting these grants into the stadiums and building them like Sligo are doing, it's huge. And someone who could really do with it would be Drogheda, in all fairness.
Yeah, they really could. I'm not going to burn my bridges because he just gave us the head in the game park name back. I was only patting him on the back last week, but no, themselves in Dundalk, Finn Harps, there's a new stadium planned in the pipeline up there as well. But these are all grounds that are just to the eye, visibly they're not attractive, and it might sound stupid, but it's all down to marketing, and it's all down to what the eye sees. So we have to make the league as attractive as possible, and these grants will go a long way to doing that. But finishing off, Bows are the last team that I have down on my list, right? I don't know if you have anybody else, but they got the maximum 300,000 as well. And again, that'll go into an all-weather pitch at the DCU Sport Complex, which they have the partnership with DCU for training and things like that. So yeah, well done to everybody that was involved. I'm sure a lot of hard work within the clubs went into getting these grants together. So yeah, fair play.
Yeah, I'm looking. Did you say Finn Harps?
No, I missed Finn Harps.
Finn Harps received 196,263 for pitch and floodlight upgrades for their women's and academy teams, which is great to see. Longford Town as well got 46,000 towards new equipment, and I can't really see too much more there. But one of the 3 grants dished out for the FAI was $250,000 for National Goal Post Upgrade Scheme, which is great. So that's in the grassroots. I would like to see, though, Nathan, and I'm sure everyone at League of Ireland would like to see, but I would like to see a one-off big sort of grant that is given to the League of Ireland to give it that big push in 1 year. So not just when I'm talking about, you look at it again, we talked about the GA, they have got millions over the years, absolute millions, hundreds of millions. And I'd love to see a big push. 1.5 million, it's hugely beneficial to all the clubs, but it's only a dip in what this country really sort of puts out there. And I would love to see somewhere in the 30, 40, 50 million, something huge there's jobs in this. There's jobs in the League of Ireland, and you have stadiums that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000. That means people are going to come in, buy food. That means there's going to be people there selling stuff. It just knocks on, and the pubs around the areas and all that sort of restaurants and everything, it gets a real boost. So if we get the facilities right in these places, I think we can, grow something that is a full-time thing, and that's exactly what they're talking about in their strategy plan. So I hope that they can push them for one sort of scheme there, a grant that would be a big one that would sort of lay the foundations, because 1.5 million every year, that'll trickle along, and you'll have to be there for another 100 years before things kind of get itself together.
Yeah, like you look at some even the maintenance costs of these stadiums, to keep floodlights, for example, up to date. Like that 1.5 million at the end of the day, it is pittance. I know it's ridiculous to say if we had that money now, we wouldn't be on here talking up on our side, but it is though. If you're looking at the grand scheme of things, like I said earlier, if you look at things, boring things, but these are it takes it. Insurance is a massive thing when it comes to football. You know yourself with the underage setup. So 1.5, as you said, really is nothing. The goal has to be the goal long term, is to turn the League of Ireland into a full-time structure. To have full-time staff within these clubs, and to be able to make it a feasible opportunity for people to make a living off the league as well. So yeah, I'd absolutely love to see it. Again, it's a bit of a pipe dream. Like we were talking about the strategy plan last week, a couple of them seem like a pipe dream, but it'd be lovely to have, a really would, wouldn't it? Just to give, and much like the facelift, whether that be with the stadiums, whether that be with the marketing push that the league gets, even forget about the players coming into the league. That's while we're seeing that now, we're seeing the development of great young players come into the league. That's not the issue with the league, and it hasn't been for a while now. Thankfully, we have seen that that old man's club of the retirement home League of Ireland, them days are well behind us, and it's the infrastructure and it's the facilities that are in desperate need of a polishing up.
Yep, absolutely, 1,000,000%. Okay, Nathan, we are going to wrap it. We don't have a fans question. This hasn't been brought up, Nathan. We're going to have to get that back in, get the fans questions back in again. So if you're watching and if you have any questions that you would like to raise up for debate, do throw it in there. Yeah, send it on to the big kickoff at 96.4@gmail.com. Or Nathan, yours is
Nathan.Doyle live.com. Yeah, pretty sure I said that all the
confidence. yeah, there was no confidence there whatsoever.
Just get the big kickoff at Nathan Doyle on any of the social media platforms. That'll be easier for, because I'm guaranteed that's somebody else's email address.
And don't forget that if you're watching it on YouTube, we are on all the major podcast providers out there, and vice versa. If you're listening to us as you're going out for your walk or on your way to work, we are also on YouTube if you want to look back or look at us there as well. If you have a night to yourself and you want to put the feet up and listen to us two gobshites rabbit on about League of Ireland football, and hopefully now that we will get others in and a few special guests throughout the year. So thanks very much for listening, Nathan. Thanks very much for your time as well.